this gentleman, Buckminster Fuller, I don't know how familiar you are with him. He is a famous architect from the 60s. He, you see the structure, he created these wonderful like structures made of like rigid and flexible triangles. You have probably seen his domes. And he has been also an avid environmentalist. He has been like one of the forefathers of like thinking systemically about like what you do in the world. He wrote a couple of amazing books. I Seem to Be a Verb is one of my favorites. He also coined the term that you might have heard, spaceship Earth. That we are actually all living on a spaceship. We are actually the crew of a spaceship, but we have forgot about it. Right? And we can only steer this, use this spaceship if we all work together. I love that. So, and for me, another way is I also, since I'm not a native English speaker, I think very hard about the meaning of language. Sometimes even in class, I use German language and no, I don't give an example on it, but I use German language and I explain to them how that German word conveys something where there is no English word for it, right? And what I liked about this, when I struggled with like what my responsibility as a designer is, or what I am actually as a human being in the world, what the hell am I came upon this, reading about this guy who has like his entire life thought about this and acted upon the world in very positive ways. Here's what he found. So he's kind of takes it a step further from I think, therefore I am. He was like, well, yes, but I live on Earth at present, so there's a context that's broader than myself, right? I don't know what I am. I know that I am not a category. I am not a thing, noun. So I seem to be a verb. Ein Tu-Wort. Der Mensch ist das Tu-Wort in der Welt. Ja? Und als Designer bin ich das professionelle Tu-Wort. Oh mein Gott! I am an evolutionary process. See, I spoke one German sentence and I cannot speak English anymore.
Yeah.
I am an integral function of the universe. I get shivers from this, and when you get shivers, you always know you're hearing some truth.
Let me show you some real examples of the global basic income. So a few countries, they decided to start doing some experiment on the global basic income, on the basic income actually, not global. And one of the countries, all these countries did it. As you can see, it's quite a large number of countries in the last years. But I choose the recent ones. The recent one is Finland, 2017 and 18, for 2 years they did that. And what they did, I haven't mentioned the entire, it's a lot of story around, but I'm going to make it short. Generally, all the countries, when they did this experiment, they used two test groups, two groups, one test group, one control group. Test group is a group that basically received the money, and control group is a group that do not receive the money, but they are just tests to see how they react in order to make some comparison. So the test group in Finland was 2,000 people aged between 25 to 58. They receive €560 per month for 2 years. But this is very important, if in the meantime they got an employment, a job, they still receive the money, yes? So that was the experiment, just to see what's going on. The main reason Finland did this experiment, it was to see how it's going to change the unemployment. They wanted to check the unemployment situation and to see whether this experiment is going to improve the unemployment, decrease the unemployment rate. Unfortunately, it was not such a result. People, they did not become an employee. Only a few, but at the end of the day, what the Finnish government discovered, it was that indeed subjects, they feel much healthier, less stressed, and at the end of the day now they are trying to account how it's going to go into the economics, this kind of feelings they have. I mean, for example, they are going to go less to the doctors, because they are not so stressed. So it's going to be an economic, think, beside this kind of the test. So it was not unemployment solved, but maybe other. And now it's still under the research. We are waiting for next year the Finnish government to give us the results.
How are we going to handle, knowing all that, how are we going to handle the human scale? How are we going to handle something like we call public life? What are we doing with our public space? Are we really building for humans, or are we building for what? Well, it's not getting better giving us hundreds and thousands of rules, but if in the results this is our public space and we are not able to connect with somebody in this form of public space, do we really have something like a public space? Do you want to get from the one side of the street to the other, if you see that one? Well, the connections we were also talking about in the last lesson. What are we doing here, and why is it necessary knowing about what we are doing here and knowing about our form of comfort, and what does it mean to other people at the same time? How can we start building up sustainable forms of living, sustainable forms of cities, sustainable forms of architecture, if we still think in new products and not in forms of resources which is already here? So one of the main things at the first place, of course, is how are we going to survive? Yeah. The second thing is how can we make our place a safe place? But to do that, we also need, in my opinion, we need the human dimension, and we need a lot of influences for our senses, for us as social beings, that it's possible and that it's not just dreams that have been shown just 2 years ago. This is the crossing of the Broadway and the 7th Avenue in the middle of New York. And as you see on the right side down here, there are no cars anymore. In the middle of New York, in the middle of a land where the car is a completely other symbol than it's probably here in Europe, but it worked that you get people on the street, that you get people in the city, that you get the possibility for people meeting in public.
We have to make changes in every sectors of our lives. So, and it's a question also of restructuring the way in which we understand, for example, development, or what means, what would be the metrics for development. If you take a metrics like gross domestic product, you will fail, because we have to be aware that it's not possible to go on with this, as you said, consumeristic approach. But we should not view another approach like a limiting one. I mean, we have to look another way in which we preserve our quality of life, but of course, changing our values in a way. I mean, trying to keep up with nature more and having more values, real values attached to our development as individuals, as local communities, and as society. I mean, now it's a false impression that we could go infinitely with this raising this gross domestic product, of course, adding some cycles, but in ascending direction. It's not possible. I could tell you as a physicist, as a simple physicist, not as a climatologist. It's not possible to go in this way because we are fooling ourselves that we have unlimited resources and cost is low in going in this because some costs are covered and we are not taking into account costs on human health, for example, due to pollution. We do not take into account costs for next year and for next decades. If we take all these costs and put it in our present economic approach, we could see that this present economic approach is not sustainable.
Well, I've been studying at a German Goethe College here in Bucharest, and for us here it's like normal, like we think like this, like Romania, okay, like if you don't get out of here, then you haven't achieved something in life. It's a really elitistic point of view, but it's the truth, actually. And I think in more than just my high school was this the question, like to go out. A lot of people go out, like it was this wave of going out from people to go to Germany, to England, or to other countries to study. But now I think people now are, I mean, younger generation, I see they're not so much going out. For myself, it was like, okay, I was in the 12th grade, and okay, do I move out? Do I stay here? I wanted to study here first, but then I applied for the scholarship in Germany, and I had very much luck to get it. And I went to Bonn first, one of a sudden. And it was like kind of honeymoon period at first. It was like, oh my God, I'm in Germany, so many castles, so many, I mean, in Bonn it's the Rhine, it's very nice. The people are nice, so many different cultures. I can eat so much different food and yeah, so like so many. Of course. I mean, I'm a boy. I mean, so many different girls from different nations. It was really cool. Okay, and then I started to think, okay, maybe it's not so bad actually going in another country after all. But then, of course, like migrating, I was on my own. I had to do everything what my parents did for myself.
And yeah, well, migration has played a very big and important part in my life since I know myself, because my parents have been working since I was born in Germany. So since I was little, I went every summer to Germany. They are living on an island. It's called Borkum in North. And And it was really nice to go there every summer, so I thought in the 8th grade, why not move there? So in the 8th grade I moved to Germany, and at first it was really confusing. So I knew how to talk to people, but in school it was so hard, because to learn everything in German, like chemistry and physics and everything, and you translate everything in German, like even oxygen is translated to Sauerstoff, and I had to learn that. And after a while I started to speak and write better, and it was okay, but it was really hard moving from a big city like Iași to an island. And in winter it was really cold, and nobody but the locals were there, so it was really hard for me to live there. So in the 9th grade, in the 2nd semester, I came back to Romania. So I migrated again, and I finished my high school here in Romania in Iași, and after that I actually didn't want to leave the country again. Maybe because I was a little bit afraid, but maybe because I actually really like to live in Romania.
I think for Romania at the moment, migration is kind of twofold. It's both negative and positive. It's negative because it's in a way a necessary evil. It's seen as a brain drain, so to speak, by some people, because the Romanian diaspora is huge now. It numbers at, I think, 5 million Romanians abroad, which is basically, I don't know, a quarter of the whole population is living abroad, which is basically leaves us with 3/4 of the population living here. Their whole villages of people who are living abroad there. I mean, I've seen a statistic that said that basically every year a city in Romania is disappearing. It just moves abroad, which is, yeah, negative in the short term. But I think in the long term, it will be a really, really big influx of people if they have the conditions to return to Romania. I think it'll be a really big influx of people who come back with the things they learned abroad, and it'll be a massive, how should I put it, injection of, I won't say civilization, but an afflux of
new ideas.
New ideas. Thank you.
We are living in a world where certain things are not certain anymore. And what do we base our country, our culture, our living on if there's nothing certain anymore? So my 3 things to live by, and I call it German Direktheit. 3 advices to correct the course of non-commitment are be clear. Do you say maybe because you want to say maybe, or do you say maybe because you need some time to think what you really want to say? And do you say I guess because you want to say I guess, or do you want to say it is like that, but I'm not bold enough to say it is like that, so I say I guess because if I make a mistake, I can say I just guessed it. I didn't say it really. So be clear about your language. The second thing is be there. Sometimes it's not really polite, but be direct. If you don't want to go to the movie, just say, I don't want to go to the movie. If you don't like that cloth your friend buys, be the good friend and say, I don't really like this, what you buy. And the third thing is, dare to fail. Because we are living in a world where nothing is uncertain. But, and everybody can tell you this, a project, and everything is a project in this case, like, for example, my commitment to my girlfriend, if I'm saying, okay, let's be honest, nobody of us knows if we are together 3 years from now, so don't commit too much to this, it won't work. But if you try to do things, really do things, you must commit to things, and you will fail one day or another. And this is okay, because back in the day, in Germany, there's a saying, it's called Fehler machen und daraus lernen heißt Erfahrung. Making mistakes and learn from it is making experience. And I think we have to come back to that, to making experience, to have the freedom to fail, to stand up again and do things again. And I think these 3 things, be clear, be bold, and dare to fail, will help us as humanity and as humans to be committed in a time where commitment is really rare.